Hey, welcome to another video. In this video, I am going to show you how I remove the intake manifold from my VWT4 2.5 TDI. It's done just under 160,000 miles, so the inside of the intake manifold is absolutely caked with this oily sludge. So this is how I do it. So what I'm going to be doing now is removing my intake manifold from on top of the 2.5 TDI ACV AJT engine. This is spec'd as an AJT, but as you can see it says over there ACV because the ACV and the AJT, as well as some other of the 2.5 TDIs, share the same engine and block, although they might have different intake. This engine is now done 156,000 miles and I've had it since 2018, and when I sorted out the EGR problems that were on this engine when I first bought it, I replaced it with this EGR bypass or EGR delete pipe because mine wasn't working anyway. It was almost like a factory dummy EGR. I don't know how it didn't have any valve or anything like that on it anyway, so it's removed. I fitted this. What I noted back then, this is many years ago now, was that the intake manifold was filled with all sorts of soot and muck, and after having sorted that problem out on another diesel recently, I have decided, while I'm in here doing other work on the engine, I'm going to finally remove this intake because it's been bugging me in the back of my mind for years. So I'm going to systematically remove it. I'm going to begin by removing the EGR pipe, which is 4 5mm sunken Allen screws, sunken Allen bolts, and then I need to get access to the bolts that hold on the intake manifold, which are at the back of the engine above the exhaust manifold. And that is the last of the intake manifold bolts finally out. That is all of them. What are my tips for doing this? Space is quite limited. It's very fiddly and you need a lot of patience. I wouldn't say that it's difficult, it's just very fiddly. So I have used a number of different tools to try and get these out, and what I found was I needed a long 6mm like that. The other thing that I've used is a flexible shaft like that with a 6mm Allen head socket kind of taped into the end so that it doesn't drop out. I did try a 90-degree angle kind of drill bit thing. That is just a little bit too chunky to fit in the space. I also used 2 different lengths of Allen keys. I used a long one with a ball on the end, and then I also used the shorter one. You can use the shorter one to get into the bolt and still have some space underneath the bottom of the intake manifold. Ideally, what you want is one of these with a ball end over there. I had a look to see if I could find one. I couldn't. All the balls tend to be on the end of the L shape, not over there, but it would be blinking ideal if I could get an Allen key with a ball on the end, on both ends even. That would make this really useful. You can release the first 2 on either side with a wrench and a normal 6mm socket like that, because there is enough space on those 2. But when you start getting in underneath the intake manifold, it becomes really tricky. The really difficult ones are the 2 inside ones. 1, 2 and 3 are fine. These 2 are really difficult. Those two are fairly straightforward, although my heat shield made it a bit difficult to get that one out over there. I started this at about 1 o'clock, so it's taken me 3.5 hours to get to this point where I've got all of the bolts out. I think there's 6 or 7 of those Allen bolts, and you can see they're pretty long. They have a washer, which thankfully is captive. In other words, it doesn't slide off, because if it did, it would make it really tricky, and the chance of dropping that into the intake port would be pretty high, I'd say. How I'm going to get these back on, that is going to be another story. It's going to be fiddly. Going to try and see if I can conjure up any clever plans, but the intake manifold is now loose and ready to be extracted, and there you go, it is out. So the gasket looks okay. You can see the muck in those ports that I was concerned about. You can't quite see the muck that's inside there, but there is a lot of it. And that down there is the heat shield that was making it a bit difficult to get this particular bolt out. You've got to unscrew these screws out far enough beyond this heat shield before they release. That one was pretty straightforward. These two are tricky. This one, these two here, are quite difficult to get to. These two here, easy. Those two there, easy. But honestly, I've spent the last hour and a half getting out these 3 here in the center. Underneath the turbo here, there is a return line, an oil line that runs down there, and that does get in the way. But you can just squeeze these long Allen head tools in that gap like this. So you put this in from the other side, so like that. On the one side you can reach that Allen head bolt there. This side becomes a bit more difficult, and that's where this flexible tool came in. So with the flexi tool I was able to bend that to get it to that bolt over there. So the flexi also reached that one, but this one here, this third one from the left, you can actually get in underneath there. Right, so bearing in mind there is space to get in over there underneath the turbo, so I'll bear that in mind when I put this back on, because it'll be about there somewhere. Here, no, because that's the exhaust. Bit of space underneath here to get in from that side, but you're going to need a long 6mm Allen with a ball head on the end to reach that. Likewise for these two, and then this one over here, you can get in underneath there to get that one there. Hopefully that shows you and helps me put this all back together in. That helps me put this all back together again, and hopefully that's useful to you if you are going to do this job yourself. You can see that is quite a bit of muck down here. There's going to be quite a bit of soot in there. So obviously I'll want to try and clean out. I'll have to get a vacuum and clean this out as I vacuum. I don't want any of this stuff getting into the cylinders, bearing in mind it's been getting in there anyway, right? Cleaning this all up is just going to be brilliant. But I am curious about an upgraded turbo while I'm in here. Anyway, I just keep making more and more work for myself. But that is what I want to clean up, and inside that big black hole which you can't see at the moment. Anyway, I hope you found that useful, how to remove the 2.5 TDI ACV AJT intake manifold Maybe a couple of other ones are similar, I'm not sure. It's definitely not the same as the AXG. But yeah, hopefully that was useful. As usual, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and that'll be much appreciated. Cheers.